Welcome to Wellness Tools Reconsidered, a series of conversations looking at how powerful wellness methods can become even more effective just by adding an insight that cuts down on the effort. In this episode, we're focusing on interpersonal and relationship-focused. These are the widely recognized methods people lean on to better handle their emotions, manage stress, and navigate daily life more skillfully. These approaches are proven. They absolutely deserve their reputation. What we're exploring here is a very simple question that's often missed. When you understand exactly where your struggle comes from, how does that change things? And how can that insight make using these tools feel a whole lot easier? This isn't a guide or a new set of steps. It's a mindful discussion about insight, effort, and why the work you're already committed to can begin to feel lighter without you having to swap out any of your current tools.
You know, it's one of those fundamental truths about being human that's both comforting and honestly a little bit terrifying.
What's that?
That we're just biologically wired for connection.
Yeah.
We're not these isolated units.
Right.
And because of that, so much of our deepest suffering, it's not just happening inside our own heads, it's happening between us.
That's the friction point, isn't it? Which is exactly why we're looking at these specific interpersonal approaches today. Things like interpersonal therapy, IPT, and emotionally focused therapy, EFT.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of research here that frames these as, you know, the gold standard for relational repair.
But we're not just here to praise them.
No. We want to explore why they work, for sure, but also get at this a very common frustration I think a lot of people feel. We're calling it the effort problem.
That exhaustion, that feeling when you're using all the right therapy scripts, doing everything by the book.
And the relationship still feels like a full-time job.
Exactly. But to understand that exhaustion, we have to respect the tools first. I mean, these modalities, IPT, EFT, attachment work, they all share this really radical idea.
It is.
They stop treating relational pain as some kind of personal defect and start seeing it as a dynamic, a pattern.
IPT is so pragmatic about that. It basically says your mood disorder isn't just a chemical thing, it's tied to your context.
Right. It asks about your life. Your role changes, your grief, your disputes. It connects the symptom directly to your social world.
Which is so empowering because it gives you something to actually do. You clarify what you need, you fix the communication, and the mood often stabilizes. It's very direct.
And then you have something like EFT, which goes a little deeper into the, let's say, the wiring. It's less about who does the dishes and more about seeing that invisible dance you're both stuck in.
The demon dialogue.
That's the one. It shows you the cycle. One person pulls away to feel safe. The other person pursues to feel connected. And suddenly you realize you're not fighting about the trash.
You're both just terrified of being disconnected.
And attachment theory kind of anchors all of this, right? It's the safety net. When you use these tools well, you build what's called earned security. You feel safe enough to actually be known.
And the win is absolutely real. Conflicts do get softer. Repair becomes possible. But there's the twist. You learn the scripts. You say, I feel anxious when you withdraw. You do it perfectly.
And your heart is still pounding out of your chest.
You're just exhausted. The relationship becomes this fragile thing that you have to constantly manage with these high-level skills.
And that is the effort problem. It's like you're walking on eggshells, but now you have a very sophisticated vocabulary to describe the eggshells.
So what's the issue here?
The issue is that most of these tools, as brilliant as they are working downstream.
Okay. That's a key distinction. We saw this explored in the book, The Lens That Changes Everything. The idea of upstream versus downstream.
Right. So think of it like a river. Downstream is where the flood is happening. It's the interaction itself.
The argument.
The argument, the tone of voice, the words you choose. And you're using IPT and EFT like sandbags to stop the flood. It works, but it takes a ton of energy to hold those sandbags in place forever.
So upstream is where the water's coming from?
It's the source. It's the expectation that's generating the flood in the first place.
Let's make that concrete. Say your partner makes a comment that feels a little dismissive.
Okay.
Downstream, you use your tools. You take a breath. You use an I statement. You don't attack back. You manage the interaction.
Which takes huge effort.
Huge effort. The upstream question is different. It's, why did that comment feel like a threat to your identity? Is there some kind of inherited belief there, a civilizational shortcut you picked up somewhere that says your worth is entirely based on someone else's approval?
So if you can see that, the upstream belief, the trigger doesn't even load in the same way.
Exactly. You don't need all the heavy lifting of the downstream communication tool because there's less of a flood to manage.
That's the shift. You realize you're not just fighting with the person in front of you, you're fighting the lens you're seeing them through.
So this insight, it doesn't mean you throw away EFT or IPT.
No, not at all. You stop using them as armor.
You use them to connect, not just to survive the conversation.
And that's really the goal, isn't it? Not better performance in the relationship, but just less effort, more ease.
For anyone wanting to dig into that specific upstream context, the book, The Lens That Changes Everything, is available for free through the Creative Humanity Alliance. We'll link to it.
Yeah, it's a great companion for anyone who feels like they're doing everything right, but is still just tired.
So maybe we'll just leave you with this thought. If connection feels like constant hard labor, maybe the problem isn't your skill. Maybe you just need to look upstream. Peace doesn't come from fixing the relationship, but from understanding the lens you see it through.
As we close, it's worth saying clearly, insight doesn't replace tools. What it changes is the relationship to them. When struggle is understood not as a personal failure, but as something that formed for understandable reasons, effort often softens. The tools you already trust begin to feel more supportive and less corrective. If you already use these practices, there's nothing new you need to adopt. This conversation is simply an invitation to see the work differently and to notice what changes when recognition replaces constant management.